While one of the most important things about horror movies is the suspension of disbelief, we can't help but be drawn into behind-the-scenes stories about how they're made. Even if they spoil the mystery a little bit, seeing our favorite monsters with their heads off eating M&Ms from the crafts table is something we just can't get enough of. Also, click that little bell so you can stay up to date with all of our fresh new content.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
When Jaws burst onto the scene, it gave more than one audience member a pretty deadly fear of sharks. But all that is called into question when you see the director, Steven Spielberg, casually reclining in the mouth of the terrifying beast, who the crew lovingly named Bruce. While Hannibal Lecter's favorite food is notoriously disgusting and all too familiar, this moment might take that bad taste out of your mouth. Seeing him casually munching on a French fry through his infamous mask makes him seem a little more friendly and a lot less horrifying. It's difficult to remember that Linda Blair was only 14 years old when she appeared as the terrifyingly afflicted little girl in The Exorcist. But behind-the-scenes photos change all of that, as we are reminded that she was just a little girl in some very gross-looking makeup. While Alfred Hitchcock's behavior on set might be the real horror story, The Birds remain one of his most beloved classics. Some real birds were used during the shoot, but this moment of Hitchcock giving direction surrounded by lifelike bird props takes some of the horror out of the movie. These behind-the-scenes details from 2005's The Amityville Horror might actually give you the chills. The original murders took place in 1974 at 3:15 a.m., the same time that Ryan Reynolds and crew claim to have woken up every day during filming. It's kinda creepy.
Take your pick, bird, Billy boy.
Pennywise the Clown has given generations of viewers nightmares and clown phobias, both with its classic 1986 original and the beloved 2017 update. But this behind-the-scenes tidbit of Pennywise getting his makeup touched up puts just a little damper on the nightmarish clown. The anthology film Creepshow that was written by and stars Stephen King is an extremely creepy foray into the horror writer's short stories. While he may act terrified in the movie, seeing him playing around with a disgustingly decaying skeleton makes it all just a little bit more funny. You might think the set of Brian De Palma's horror classic Carrie was a pretty grim place to be based on the subject matter and the chilling performance by its lead Sissy Spacek, but it actually looks like they had a lot of fun even when covered in blood. After Game of Death premiered at South by Southwest in 2017, it was hailed as a campy and over-the-top gory fright fest. But while being soaked head to toe in blood might seem downright disgusting, the cast and crew sure didn't seem to mind. Some of the most impressive aspects of making horror movies is the work of amazing special effects teams. Talented men and women who make it look like blood is pouring out of a zombie's face even when it's just packs of corn syrup taped under the Night of the Living Dead costumes. Special effects also means the amazing makeup that the creepy creatures from horror movies have to wear, often for weeks on end. Actors and crew get so used to this crazy makeup that no one even seems to bat an eye, like this disturbing creature from the Spanish horror film Wreck. The same goes for Freddy Krueger, who you'd expect to keep his distance on set from the kids he was terrorizing on screen. But nope, it's definitely not as scary seeing him relaxing on set, listening to some tunes on his Walkman. Speaking of Nightmare on Elm Street, you might not know that the movie was actually inspired by a series of real deaths, referred to as the Nightmare Deaths. Between 1983 and 1987, 130 male Southeast Asian immigrant men died in their sleep from extreme terrors with no physical symptoms. Another creepy behind-the-scenes tidbit is about the indie horror The Innkeepers, which was actually inspired by the real and supposedly very haunted Yankee Peddler Inn. The supernatural things that happened while the crew of his previous film stayed there stuck with the director, even though he was skeptical. Elijah Wood has played his share of scary characters, from Sin City all the way to the horror movie The Maniac. It might lead some to believe that he's a scary guy in real life, but behind the scenes, he just looks like he's having a lot of fun.
Hello, Andy.
The titular demented doll from the Chucky movies is pretty impressive. It must be, in order to make a child's toy scary enough to frighten adults. But this amazing look behind the scenes shows how technical the animatronic puppet actually was, and the bored technician makes it a little bit better. While the early Godzilla films might not be enough to scare today's audiences, back in the day the sight of an enormous reptile stomping on entire cities did the trick. This BTS of a man inside the legs of Godzilla might have been enough to take the edge off though. Pinhead, the aptly named villain from HELLRAISER, is one of the scariest looking movie bad guys out there, and someone we wouldn't want to get too close to. The image of him holding a tiny baby though is pretty hilarious, but we highly doubt that the baby would agree. Planet of the Apes walks the line between science fiction and horror, so we feel okay about including it here, mostly because the image of these damn dirty apes lounging on the beach and sipping some cool drinks is just too good to be true. A similar effect is had by seeing the green, bolt-necked Frankenstein's monster on the set of Son of Frankenstein, having a break with some tea and toast. Seeing him mold the delicate floral china definitely takes the fright factor down just a couple of notches.
Movies don't create psychos, movies make psychos more creative!
Drew Barrymore's death in the first Scream film is pretty gruesome and gory, in a way that really shocked audiences when the movie was released. Apparently, it wasn't so much for the crew, on the other hand, as this BTS shows a couple of guys smiling next to her disemboweled corpse. When you think of the alien from the Alien franchise, you don't think of him as a sad or contemplative character, but this behind-the-scenes photo became famous for just that. The alien, sitting forlornly on set, looking like he's thinking some pretty deep thoughts. Even serial killers get thirsty, though we get why directors don't include shots of them pausing for a drink. If this behind-the-scenes shot of Michael Myers from the first Halloween movie is any indication, it definitely takes away from the horror just a tad. If you've ever seen one of the Silent Hill movies, you're familiar with the intensely scary-looking nurse characters, but seen here, we remember that they're all just actresses after all, and they look like they're having a ton of fun as they pose for an awesome behind-the-scenes photo. Freddy vs. Jason saw two icons of movie horror face off in a total bloodbath. You might think that the two actors would have stayed away from each other on set, but this BTS of the two of them shows quite the opposite as they lounge between scenes. And there they are, 25 behind-the-scenes moments from horror movies that make them just a little bit less horrifying. What did you think of these moments? Is it hard to see your favorite villains out of character, or does it make it even better knowing that they had fun on set? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe to Screen Rant for more awesome content just like this. Thanks for watching!